I don't ever remember deciding to go interrailing. I think it began with a vague conversation with my best friend about how cool it would be. The two of us have had hundreds of such conversations, none of which ever came to anything, except this one, and the fact that 180 quid for a 1-month train ticket is an attainable goal. I got a job before Christmas, saved every penny, turned down social events and worked during holidays, term time and exams. By July I'd saved more than enough to pay for the trip, mainly in the Old East, countries that were cut off from mainstream Europe until the fall of the USSR in 1991. Before I embarked, I thought I'd get some tips from a real European.
I think everyone has his or her way to travel, but what I really like into travel is taking time to be soaked into a culture and to really just take the time to just sit, breathe and enjoy where you are, so just take time.
I also spoke to my local MP, Rachel Maskell, about why travel is important.
I'm a real internationalist, and I believe the more that we share with people of different cultures, the more enriched we are. And I think the more we understand about different cultures and different communities, the more we realise we've got more in common, that we understand that, you know, young people, for instance, are young people the world over, full of the aspirations that they have, and I think we just need to mix a lot more and spend time in each other's cultures. I'm sure interrailing across Europe over the summer you'll really grow as a person, as you'll have to do things that you've never done before, and that's fantastic opportunity really, isn't it?
On the 8th of July 2018, I left the UK behind with nothing more than my ticket, my rucksack and my best friend Leah. Leah and I have known each other since we were 3. We grew up together, and very few people know me quite as well as she does. Therefore, it felt fitting that we'd go on our first major adventure together. First stop was Prague. We're in Prague! The capital of the Czech Republic, and possibly one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. We were thrown headfirst into the deep end, and confronted with the realisation that we were entirely responsible for ourselves. Later in the trip, we'd come to relish being in control, but on the first day, it resulted in us spending an inordinate amount of time stood on the pavement outside our hostel, overwhelmed with the possibilities. We decided to stick with what we knew we liked: castles, cathedrals, and stained glass. We followed the recommendation of Cecilia and headed to Prague Castle, and despite the initial confusion with the trams, an issue that would follow us around Europe, we had a pleasant few hours admiring the beauty of the architecture. Thoughts on the windows?
Huh?
Thoughts on the windows?
Lovely.
Lovely?
Gorgeous.
Nice. Do you feel enlightened?
From myself.
However, the false sense of security we'd been lulled into was not to last. It's day 2. Yesterday was an eventful day.
Yeah.
We saw some really nice windows.
Fell in love with windows.
Absolutely. I had a major nosebleed. I've never had a nosebleed that big.
So I fainted because that would make the situation just a little bit better.
So then we had to chill on a bench for quite a while Leah recovered. But then I feel like yesterday afternoon was quite good. We just went and sat outside a cathedral and
Then wandered
around a bit.
Beep, 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 beep. Zoom right into your face.
Less than 24 hours after beginning our trip, we'd had to deal with blood, sweat, tears and fainting. And despite being terrifyingly stressful at the time, we realised we were able to deal with it. And we got a pretty great story out of it. We moved on to Krakow in Poland and began to settle into the rhythm of travelling. We're in Krakow! We learnt to move slowly and enjoy the small pleasures of life. Incredible architecture, friendly people, delicious food, pleasant smells and beautiful music. We learnt more about the places we visited than we ever could from a book and gained more stories to tell. Everywhere provided new experiences. It was interesting to see how becoming linked to Western Europe had transformed this once dour city into a centre of culture and quirkiness. I met Owen in our odd Lenin-themed hostel and had a bit of a chat with him about his trips and his thoughts on travelling.
I really didn't want to do anything until I was about 19, when I saw a few friends do it. But yeah, up until then I was a bit of a, not a homebird, but I always thought, nah, it's not for me. But recently I just thought life's boring, let's let's do something at least. Let's see a few things.
Like, how have you funded it, or is there sort of bank of mum and dad, or what is it?
Well, luckily,
You wanna say?
I'm quite proud to say that there's no bank of mum and dad. There's a bit of grant behind it.
Oh yeah, well, that doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
They always help out.
No, because I've been working full time for the last 12 months, so I've managed to save up enough money. But in terms of actually doing it, it's been really easy.
Sure you don't want a political rant?
It's
No?
okay. No. I'll save myself that one.
Okay.
You can book me again, and I'll come on next time when you do a political
I'll come back and I'm like,
political
right,
programme. Yeah, let me know.
when I make it about independent Wales.
Oh, please don't.
We then enjoyed a night of what could only be called eclectic accordion music before we went to the station and boarded the train to our next destination, Budapest, the city of new friends.
We're in Budapest!
We met 4 great new friends in our hostel, Joe, Jago, Alice and Ollie. Although Leah and I know each other like the back of our hands, it was nice to mix with other people. A good night out together and some sightseeing reminded us that it was worth being away from our friends and family at home for the new people that we were able to meet. We also had some unusual shopping experiences.
Either like marrow things, but like round, because you can get like round courgettes. My granddad grows them.
That's not round.
We're in Croatia!
We're in Zagreb, Croatia. Zagreb in the chilled Mediterranean country of Croatia was our halfway point. This was the point where we felt we had cracked travelling. By now, Leah and I had become closer than ever, with a ridiculous amount of inside jokes to prove it.
Everything kills you in Australia.
That's kind of what deadly means.
Yeah, but I'm just defining it for them in case they don't quite understand.
There is the Sydney Opera House.
Got this.
I decided to interview her to see what her experience of our trip so far had been.
I wish I was a bit more like within the cultures here. I sort of was just thinking about the actual places rather than like people. But then Budapest was a bit of a different experience, and it was really nice. I really enjoyed talking to all those people. It was a really good day. I mean, again, shout out to Joe and Jago. We had a great day, and I even want to keep in contact with them. So it's you're making new friends. I think I'm at that point in my life where I am, ready to leave the nest. But it's still, I guess, the first time that for a longer period of time I haven't had the support from my family as much as I would usually at home. So that can be difficult in moments of stress. Like how stressful this train is making me feel.
Then we enjoyed some nostalgia for an era before we were born at the 80s Museum. We're in the 80s Museum.
Welcome to the 80s.
Yeah.
Ooh, love it. Do 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 do.
Next was Vienna. Vienna turned into one of our best stops, largely due to the amazing people we met there, particularly Amelia. Despite all of us doing similar trips, we all had different experiences, and I wanted to find out more about what this had made Amelia realise.
So I'm Amelia, I'm 22, I'm from Philadelphia in the United States. I am traveling for a month, so I'm going to a lot of different places.
Why you chose that specific route?
It's where the trains go. So it's a lot of relying on myself to make friends, decide what I want to do. So it's really liberating, but also if I mess up, it's all on me. It's only from traveling that you can really get a different kind of view where you realize, okay, maybe the way that we do things in the United States could be improved. Maybe there are certain things that we do well, but at the same time, we're not the center of the world.
In Vienna, Leah had her 18th birthday, and 2 of our friends from secondary school flew out to meet us when we spent a lovely day in the grounds of a nearby palace. However, by now the tiredness definitely hit me, and their visit served as a reminder of home and the loved ones I was hundreds of miles away from. I couldn't shake the desire to go home just for a night to see my family and get a good night's rest. Unfortunately, this feeling continued as we crossed into Munich, and our not-so-nice hostel was almost enough to push us over the edge. But if this trip had taught me anything, it was that I had to deal with my problems myself. So I did the only thing you can do when you're tired, hungry and homesick. I headed to the nearest McDonald's, shared 20 chicken nuggets with Leah, and called my mum. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't inspirational, but it did the trick. Unfortunately, we also learnt the hard way that life at home doesn't stop while you're away. Some not-so-pleasant drama kicked off, resulting in the lowest point of the entire trip. However, we had learnt a lot in this trip, and we had changed and grown a lot as people, yet one thing remained the same. We knew we liked some good architecture. So we decided the best way to cheer up was head to another palace, learn about the history, have a picnic, and hang out with some ducks and read a book. This trip has made me realise that I am ready to be an adult, and I'm definitely going to travel more and keep expanding my horizons. It's sad to think that the UK is cutting itself off from all the incredible culture and experiences that Europe offers. It's up to young people like me to keep looking outwards and remain part of the European ideal.
Nakon svega što je bilo, ni poznanstvo čak ne osta, niti osmijeh, niti pogled, niti jedna topla riječ.